Yeah, so when it comes to the employee experience, one of the things that we found is, well, in general, nothing happens in our organizations without our employees, right? So how do we make sure that they can do their best work? And in our studies on the employee experience, when we really created this measure of employee experience, and I'll get to what that means in a second, we found that organizations that were in the top quartile on our measure of employee experience, compared to the other 75% in our study, their net profit margins, when adjusted for industry averages, were 8.4 percentage points higher. Their revenue from new products and services, so that were introduced in the past 3 years, which is our measure for innovation, was over twice as high. And we saw huge differences also in time to market, inability to change rapidly. So from that perspective, it is really quite an essential concept. And the way we define the employee experience, it consists of two components that are both equally important. On the one hand, you have what we call an adaptive work environment, and on the other, collective work habits. So an adaptive work environment, what we mean by that is a work environment that adjusts to the needs of the employee, not the other way around. So think here about how easy is it to connect with others in the organization, to connect with data, information, ideas, and exchange those. How easy is it to create a work environment, not just physical, but also virtual, that suits your needs. Then the other side is collective work habits. And when we talk about collective work habits, it is essentially our more practical answer to when we talk about culture typically. So collective work habits are actions, collective actions that are in line with our organizational values. So take, for instance, an organization that we've studied recently, Mars. You might know Mars as a food and confectionery company, but most of their revenues actually come from pet care. So dog food, cat food, but also veterinary care. They have animal hospitals and all that. So one of their goals in recent years that they've stated is they want to become 100 times faster. Not just transform 100 times faster or get products to market 100 times faster. No, as an entire organization, in many different ways, become 100 times faster. And they're on that journey, right? But it makes you think about speed and acceleration within an organization, and how do they do that? Well, collective work habits are really important in that area. So for them, if they think about innovativeness, about empowerment, what they've created is what they call their digital engine. And it doesn't necessarily have as much to do with technology. It's really about three things for them. One, user centricity. They want teams throughout the organization to use principles of design thinking to really interact with actual customers and identify customer needs and problems that they can then solve. Then two, they want to use data and analytics to help solve those problems. So making sure that everyone has the skills and understanding necessary to do that. And then three, once they have those solutions, they want to drive reuse and automation to really scale solutions throughout the organization. Now, that sounds like great, right? But it's a trajectory of multiple years where they started with a few expert teams on these specific topics, on design thinking, on analytics, all of that, to get started approaching other teams and saying, hey, we might be able to help you. We might be able to get you to become faster. And that's why they really took this organic approach to make sure that everyone applied this in their daily practice and really started using this. And that's a process that took them several years. But then when COVID came around, and people were afraid to go out into the world, right? Early COVID, you didn't want to go anywhere. The last thing that people wanted to do was go to an animal hospital. So they created telehealth for the veterinary hospitals, right? And they were able to do that really quickly. Well, you can do that once you've created those habits and your teams know, like, hey, there is this need, we have the data, we think we can do this, and we can actually, execute on this and go fast. And that's when you see that really come together. And I love that example of how they are always looking for how do we become faster and how do we do that so that it becomes ingrained in how we do a business and how do we help our teams to do all of that. So there's these two components. Again, adaptive work environment, collective work habits, and they need to come together. Because if you have a really great adaptive work environment, but the collective work habits are not in line, then you may have all the great technology environment, but if people don't use it, it's essentially useless. At the same time, if you have all this passion and energy within your organization, but the environment isn't able to keep up, it's also not going to deliver. So you need to have both. You need to have it come together and elevate it to a level where it can really have that impact that I described on organizational performance.